What is your nobody will ever believe this story? I knocked a cup of coffee off my counter and caught it, and no coffee spilled out of it. Burn the witch. How do you know he's a witch? He turned me into a newt. A newt. One time when I was a teenager I was playing pool with friends. The pizza arrived, or whatever, and I took one last shot, just as everyone was leaving, and sank like 5 balls. It was the single best move I have ever made in any game I have ever played. But no one saw it, and there was no way to take credit for it without sounding like a liar. I miss playing pool in bars. One time me and 2 friends met a couple of haggard looking biker dudes and asked if they wanted to play a game. One guy took a trick shot and imagined the white ball, 8 ball, and whatever ball he was sinking in a straight line in that order. Dude managed to make the white ball jump and skip the 8 ball and perfectly sink the colored one. Looking back at it, it's probably a really common trick shot, but to us young 20-somethings it was pretty awesome. That is common, but you got nowhere, and he hard to hit it to direct it to your target ball, so it takes a bit of skill. You also don't want to rip the fabric, or whatever. I've seen it most often done accidentally by inexperienced/drunk players, like myself, and it seems the less experience the more it happens. It comes down partly due to stick control, and a lot of people hold it in a dumb ASD way, like a cigarette palm inward, which gives virtually no control for guiding it. Jumping to be a legal shot actually has pretty specific rules around it. What you're describing is scooping, and if you use that to jump a ball, it's a foul. If you scoop accidentally it's fine. Jumping, you have to hit the top half of the ball and drive it down into the table to get it to pop up. Most players nowadays have a shorter cue called a jump cue for these shots. Was doing a service call at an equestrian farm. I went to the bathroom in the barn to take a leak. The door was slightly ajar and the light was off. I pushed open the door and hit the light, only to see a goat dressed in a fleece vest eating toilet paper off the roll. He gave me this look like to say, "WTF are you looking at?" I turned off the light and left. That's very on-brand goat behavior. Oh yes, my goat paddleboards with me while I was getting everything set up. He was busy cleaning up all of the littered maps around the grounds. Just doing his part thanks to his love of paper. You had me at my goat paddleboards with me. Haha. He's kind of a badass. That puts him in not a regular goat category. Goats hate water. He walks through it, swims, and paddleboards. If you Google paddleboarding goat, his little news spot pops up everywhere. Orlando Bloom winked at me once when walking past. I'm a dude. Heath Ledger was sitting in my seat on an airplane when I was about 13 on a family holiday. I knew him only from 10 Things I Hate About You at the time, and it was my favorite film ever. He was in the right seat, but on the wrong plane, and jumped up and ran across the tarmac. Simpler time. Small airport in Spain. No one ever believes me. He was in the right seat, but on the wrong plane, and jumped up and ran across the tarmac. Are you sure that wasn't Tom Cruise? Jumping off a plane and running across the tarmac to jump onto another plane is something he'd do. Except I don't believe Tom Cruise would be taking public planes. Gotta use those Scientology planes. I was once arrested for dueling. That was the charge. Please. Details, sir. He was charged being a 4th-rate duelist with a 3rd-rate deck. Username Growling Bear sounds like some 1280k shit Joe I. Wheeler would be stoked at about drawing. I saw a bird unscrew a light bulb once. Just one bird. Yep. Just one. It worked at it for a long time. Now I finally know how many birds it takes to change a light bulb. 100%. Where my brain goes to every time I hear a light bulb joke. Instant flashback to childhood. I once threw the inside of a pen at least 9 foot clear across a room and skewered a fly that was annoying me. Legit, I felt like a ninja and have no way to prove it to anyone. Not gonna lie, it's probably my peak and it's all been downhill ever since. That's one of those things in life that the odds are so high of ever happening. Once I was partying with friends. We were on a ecstasy bender day 2. All the lights off in a dark basement. One friend asked us for a lighter. We couldn't see him, just the dark. My cousin, without trying, threw it, and it landed perfectly and said friend's hand. It was unbelievable. Never would happen again in a lifetime. Similar situation with a lighter. We were smoking in a small room and my buddy said pass the lighter. Other buddy proceeds to throw a bullet right into the first buddy's hand. The weird part is they were only sitting about 2 feet apart, and the first buddy did not even move his hand to catch it, like he was resting his hand half open on his knee when the lighter was thrown, and he did not move his hand at all. The lighter just disappeared inside his hand. Hard to explain, but me and someone else in the room were both like, did anyone else just see that? But the 2 guys who did it just played it cool. I saw a bee eat a piece of cheese. It was horrifying. I didn't know it was possible. It was probably a type of wasp, not a bee. Wasps can and do munch up all sorts of things, including meat and cheese. Bees will eat human flesh if they get desperate enough, but it has to be already dead. How does a dead bee eat? A zombie bee. Zombie. FDFY. My ex, American. Met him in the US, and my other ex, Dutch. Met him 3 years later in Argentina, work at the same office in Amsterdam. They are colleagues. I found out cause I saw a FB post in which they were at the same office, 2 years after me and Dutchy broke up. And I still live in Argentina. Also, some years ago, I was in a relationship with a guy. We lived together in a tiny apartment. The relationship ended in a terrible way. 4 years later, I started dating another guy. He takes me to his house. It was the apartment I used to share with my ex. And let me tell you, Buenos Aires is a huge city. You seem to have a type. It's just the same dude wearing different disguises. He's a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. I started out in the normal math class until my teacher realized I should switch to the advanced class because I got perfect scores on everything. We were just about to start the chapter about telling time when I made the switch. The advanced math class already knew how to tell time. I had all digital clocks at my house. I didn't actually learn how to tell time till I was about to start high school and thought I should learn. Don't worry bro, I still can't sight read analog clocks. If I ever need to use one, I have to use my finger to point up to it and count the hours and minutes. I don't remember learning it in school and I missed some of 2nd grade, so I guess that's why. I've tried to teach myself but it just never sticks. So digital it is. Dang. That's wild. I can't imagine not being able to read a clock, like in the way we can read words. It's amazing the stuff we learned that we don't fully appreciate. Was lying in bed watching a movie and too lazy to move. Saw a small / harmless spider drop down from a thread on the ceiling, obviously heading for the far side of my bed. Even if it wasn't venomous, I didn't want to share my bed with it, but also didn't want to move. Not thinking it'd actually do anything, I reached out my arm towards it, but still quite a few feet away, and started waving my fingers at it in annoyance. To my absolute surprise, it immediately stopped its descent and actually retracted back up its line, while I was sitting there in surprise. Took me a couple of seconds to realize that my hand must have looked like the most giant freaking spider he'd ever seen, standing on its back legs and waving the front 5 and the fuck off, or I'll wreck you dance. That is absolutely what spiders, or rather the tarantulas I keep, will do when irritated. Rear up, wave your front legs around, and show you're willing to fight. That spider saw an Andre the Giant-sized other spider going back, quote, square TF up bro, and he wisely said no to that. Also, fun spider fact. They're all venomous. The degree to which it affects humans is usually very mild, except in some notable species, and the spiders mostly use it for digesting prey after injection. Very cool. You speak spider now. Some gifts we don't ask for. The degree to which it affects humans is usually very mild, except in some notable species. I'm Australian. We pretty much specialize in the notable exceptions. This was some random little nothing speck of a thing that provoked only annoyance and frustration, rather than the reaction / emotions some of us would. TBH, the entire experience was weird. It was the perfect quality of light to even be able to see what this little thing was doing, perfectly framed in a ray of light from the corner of my eye, and it was such a crazy long line for him to be dropping down from. I don't think I've even seen something like that first half of the story before. And then the ending, where he retracts back up the line, was so smoothly paced it was like he'd hit the up button of a piece of machinery, though I guess you could consider the spinneret like organic machinery. I watched a kid on his bike get hit by a car. Somehow he got up like it was nothing. Shock and adrenaline are a hell of a drug. I wonder the aches he felt the next day. Oh, those are the worst. I held a stick straight up in the air while pretending to be a magical creature, and then it immediately started raining heavily. Do you still have the stick? I don't know. I have several sticks in my room, but I don't remember what stick it was, or if it's one of the sticks I kept. What magical things happened with these other sticks that made you start a collection? Congratulations. You have successfully subscribed to StickPics. I once left my house in nothing but a shirt and sweatpants in a suicidal manic depressive state, bought a pack of cigarettes, and told the universe that if it couldn't give me a good reason not to kill myself by the time I finished the pack, I'd do it. I ended up seeing Daniel Radcliffe smoking a rollie outside of a Starbucks. I offered him a real cigarette pretending to have no idea who he was. "Oh, no thank you," he said. "I much prefer the ritual of rolling my own." What I could have said was, "Well yep, that makes sense seeing as how ye's a wizard." What I did say was, "Hi, I'm PhDVA. What's your name?" Given my pact, and with nothing to lose, I unloaded all my emotional baggage on him right there. We ended up talking on the curb for half an hour. He asked me about my tattoos and listened to me recite Shakespeare. Eventually he touched my shoulder, looked me in the eyes, and said, "I know there's no good way to say this, but please don't kill yourself." He asked me some reasons why I don't. Well, my cat, my mom, my brother, right? Well, I'm glad the cat came first. Totally charming. Finally he announced that he was going to wander off that way. I'd left my house without my phone due to the nature of my pact with the universe. Having nothing but the cigarettes on me to distract me from my angst was part of it, and so made no attempt to follow him or to get his number. I went back to that Starbucks several times over the coming weeks to no avail. I still don't regret not trying to give him my number, though, as it would have violated the spirit of the pact. You can't get selfish with a gift from the universe like that. Bipolar people may understand what I mean. In any case, acknowledging his fame or getting all stalky would have broken the spell. Literally a month later I saw a headline saying, "Daniel Radcliffe comes to aid of mugging victim." Clearly, that man is on a mission. That was years ago, and I haven't been suicidal in the same way since. Despite the good things about fame, I imagine a fair amount of celebs wish they could interact and be treated as a person instead of a celebrity sometimes. And it's quite possible Daniel Radcliffe is grateful for you giving him that opportunity. I'm also sure he'd be grateful to know that you're still here to write this today. I read another story on here a long time ago of a woman who worked at a sporting goods shop that a bunch of famous people shopped at. Our DJ came in, and she treated him like any other customer, with a pleasant conversation on a gift choice for one of his friends. The post said that he seemed really happy that he was able to have a candid interaction that didn't involve his fame. Watched an ant pick up its injured friend with its two front legs and ran away on its last two legs like a human would edit. I'm aware that ants have 6 legs. I just can't exactly remember what the middle 2 legs were doing, but I want to believe that they were just flailing around while the ant ran. My husband and son were watching ants filing into their hole with their loot. One ant was carrying a piece of wood, but couldn't get through the hole with it. It kept trying, holding up the line of other ants. Upon closer inspection, my husband sees it's actually been impaled with a sliver of wood. He picks up the ant and carefully removes the wood, and the ant fits down the hole. As someone visually impaired, this is a much different world than the one I live in. That was so sweet of him to do. That for the ant was all I could think when I read this. I legit found a $100 bill on the ground. I couldn't believe it myself, but I took it straight to the ATM, and it was accepted. I used to work at a movie theater and found a $100 bill on the floor of the bathroom, but an old man had just left, so I ran out and asked if it was his. He said it was, so I gave it back. When he opened his wallet it had a lot of other big bills, so I think he was telling the truth at it. The movie theater was AMC. I was waiting for a wholesome thank you for your honesty, son. Here's X amount of dollars for your honesty. That only happens in cartoons and movies. I've yet to encounter someone who would give some money to somebody that gave back something they dropped. But honestly, I just see it as basic decency to give someone something that was theirs to begin with. A thanks and the feeling you did something good should suffice. I have found 2 different wallets when I was in middle school. Both owners offered me a reward, but maybe it was because I found it on the street and biked to the owners. I said no though cause at that age I really didn't need money and was afraid my parents would mad. My wife has an artifact, reflective metallic nose ring looking object, embedded in her lower left rib cage between the bone and fatty tissue. It was discovered after an MRI for unrelated issue. Has she ever had surgery? Any possible explanation? Not opus. An artifact means something in the body that's not usual. Like horseshoe kidneys for example. They don't cause any problem. Reflective metallic nose ring like object is just his description. It's in reality just normal tissue. Artifact in radiology means something abnormal about the image. It doesn't refer to the patient's tissue. It usually means foreign objects in the patient, overlying objects, or other degradation to the image quality such as patient was moving, motion blur, or other issues with the image. Definitely does not mean horseshoe kidney or tissue that is otherwise part of the patient. Source: RadTech. It is possible that is used differently in MRI, IMA-CT/Gen RadTech, but during my interaction with MRI techs and talking to radiologists about MRI pictures, the word artifact was never used to describe pathology. It's always used to describe abnormalities that should not be in the picture. Edit. A cursory Google search does seem to agree with my understanding. Artifacts in MRI refers to issues caused by the imaging itself which may obscure patient tissues. Egg. Technical problems of the machine causing blurry imaging etc. It doesn't refer to the patient's actual tissue structures. I like that your job title can be shortened to RadTech. It's totally rad, dude, and made me smile. When I was a kid, I got a show box and filled it with some sand, a pile of sugar, and a few ants, like 3 or 4. I brought that box into the house and put it in my cabinet. I forgot about the box for like 2 days. When I went to check the box, because I thought the ants couldn't get out, I saw something that still seemed insane to me. But I know what I saw. A military style formation of ants. In a large rectangle, sorted by sizes with the smallest ones in front. Like 2, might have been 4. Big ones in front of the others facing the formation. The large ones were facing away from the cabinet doors. The ants remained still for like 2 or 3 seconds then scattered in every direction. You ruined their boot camp graduation ceremony. That's 6 boots per ant. If you are new to TattleTale TV, please subscribe. We have new videos every day. Stay tuned for more coming up next.